Fitzhugh, Betty, Barry, and Chipper are out on a task of some kind when Chipper starts warning that giants are coming.
There they are.
They've seen us. We're finished.
Quick, Barry.
I know he came this way. He can't be far. We'll get him.
Maybe they haven't seen us. There'll be no need to ponder who they're looking for because there he is.
He must be the one they're after. Sure is in trouble. Let's go help him.
Yes, of course.
Oh, hold Chipper for me. Come on, Barry.
There's something really unusual about this guy.
Wait. No, please. We're friends.
The giants.
We know. You better come with us.
Have you figured out what it is yet? I'm kidding. I do not insult my viewers like that. I have much better ways. He's their size. Unfortunately, he can't even remember that much. I do hope he remembers that a smile from a pretty lady is usually a good thing. That smile and her open, sincere face somewhat drove Heather Young's acting career, especially after Irwin Allen got a sample of her work. Oh, how many of us recognized Joan, the teenage girl on the run from aliens in the final episode of The Time Tunnel? She was never comfortable with this role, and kind of like Marta Kristen on Lost in Space, she often had little to do but stand there and take up space. But unlike her counterpart, the other cast members, such as Kirk Kasnar and Don Matheson, who played Mark Wilson, would hand her some of their lines and work to make her an equal member of the cast. She got the role because she was under contract with 20th Century Fox. Through the 40s, 50s, and much of the 60s, actors would sign a contract with a studio to be their exclusive property, so to speak, and do most any job they were called on to do. The studio could also change a person's name if they wanted to. That was how Patricia Patterson became Heather Young. Once she quit acting, she dropped the stage name and started using her married name. Patricia Euchstetter may not roll off the tongue like Heather Young, but at least she knows who she is again. She was one of the last members of that somewhat exploited group because around this time, screen and TV actors started flexing their muscles and learning how to become free agents, able to say yes or no to a role as they pleased. Our Ms. Young didn't have that option. To top it off, she was pregnant through a lot of the second season, so directors had to come up with creative ways to film her. Once Land of the Giants was canceled, she decided she'd had enough. She did a couple of very small roles in 1972 and 1980, but other than that, she quit acting to enjoy her family. At age 76, she's still doing so. I discovered she only lives about an hour from me. No, I have no plans to go try to meet her or something like that. I quit stalking people years ago.
Down here.
Well, someone had to stand guard.
Some of our writers try to make him into another Dr. Smith, cowardly, lazy, always on the defense, but then his actions turn around and display a remarkable level of selflessness and caring, especially where Barry is concerned. Our old friend from Lost in Space, Peter Packer, wrote this one, and I'd bet the way Fitzhugh is being characterized here came from his influence, because he's got it in his mind that this is another Smith. So let's settle this once and for all. Alexander Fitzhugh is not Zachary Smith. He has depth. He grows. He develops. He genuinely cares about everyone else and is willing to put himself out for the good of everyone. This was the only episode Packer wrote, which may be why this is the first time we've seen this characterization and really won't see it again to speak of. That right there is what I'm talking about. He was just subtly characterized as lazy and cowardly, but then he grabs the man's arm and pretty well single-handedly holds him up while Betty steers. Zachary Smith would not do that. He would insist on leading and make Barry do the heavy lifting because delicate back, you know. Fitzhugh will do most anything to protect Barry from any kind of harm, including a hernia. He dotes on the boy like a grandfather. So I want every subsequent writer to say this with me and say it right now. Zachary who? Then go pick up your pen and let this man be his own character.
Can you tell me your name? What you doing here?
My name.
That's a pilot uniform you're wearing. Is that what you are, a pilot?
I don't know.
He can't remember anything. Dan says everybody has a name and starts tossing some out.
Yes, does it really matter whether he remembers his name or not? We'll give him a temporary one. How's that?
Like what? George, Pete, Harry, Joe, what?
Joe.
Is that your name, Joe?
Joe. Yes, I remember now.
Joe what? He still can't remember. He also can't remember how he got here.
The Giants. They had me prisoner. They had me locked up in a place down by the waterfront. That's all I can...
I think we should let him rest for a while.
As the flight attendant, or stewardess if we must stick with 60s lingo, Betty probably has the most first aid training and is in the best position to assess that. They all know it, including Steve, so they do what they can to make him comfortable and go away.
I'm sure he'll be...
You and Fitzhugh shouldn't have brought him here, Betty. That was a mistake.
Mistake? But Steve, he needed our help.
Just the same, it was wrong. He's a stranger to us. When anyone but ourselves knows the location of this hideout, we're in trouble.
What should we have done? Left him out there to die or for the Giants to grab?
You should have hidden him, then come and got me. That's what you should have done.
And what precisely would you have done differently? I think she has a right to know that, considering this reaming has brought her close to tears. He says, our only hope of survival is for nobody but us to know where this ship is. Suddenly, Joe says, don't worry about that.
I heard what you said about survival. I know all about that.
Joe, listen. For right now, whatever Steve said, that doesn't apply to you.
Oh, no. Oh, no, your captain's right. No trouble. I'm leaving.
But he may not be leaving very far away because he takes 2 steps and falls on his face. Nevertheless, he gets up and perseveres and exits the camp.
Take cover!
I hope I don't have to point out that for all his griping about secrecy, Steve is going after Joe.
He spotted Steve.
He caught Steve and took him home for his little girl to play with. She got out some watercolors, and soon he really was a spotted Steve.
Well, I guess I got you into this. I'm sorry. I never should have let that girl take me to your camp.
Let me tell you something. You won't escape this time.
Oh, I'm sure you're right.
Nothing will help you. You're in there to stay for good, both of you.
Something about the way he said that makes me wonder why it was necessary. Dan and Mark followed the Giants to this place, but the street outside has a lot of foot traffic, so they're having trouble getting close enough to tell what's going on. Once the Giants leave the room, Joe says, okay, let's get out of here.
Can you handle this?
What are you doing?
Here, hold up that motor.
Right here?
I found that one time when they had me exercising down in the yard.
The yard.
Underneath the table.
And why did the Giants have a tiny saw? Where did it come from? Steve doesn't care right now. They'll use the saw to cut that wire mesh into strips, twist them together, and make a ladder. Sawing the metal makes a lot of noise, but the Giants don't seem to notice.
That's our way in. Come on.
Why did they run back there? The vent was closer. So we could do that. As I keep saying, these effects make me glad CGI wasn't a thing yet. Our man will sit there smoking his pipe long enough for Mark and Dan to decide they can do this better after dark. They slip back to the ship.
So, you escaped again, huh?
Split up, we have a better chance. Head for camp.
Why isn't Joe running? I wonder if that's the same giant hand that Steve gave the radio to.
Took a lot of sweat to make that ladder.
We know it did, Loca, but you carried it off very well.
Also, you could have sharpened this blade a bit, made the job easier.
That was necessary for realism, but the box won't be hard to fix.
His real name is Loca, and he's not working with the giants. He is a giant. Orange Shirt Guy developed a drug to shrink him down to this size. He has a full tin of the pills in his pocket because he has to take them regularly to stay small. And he isn't just a point man on this operation. He's also the boss, since he's the one who dreamed it up. His explanation for how he got back before Steve is a little vague, but nobody cares. They're just happy to see him, and they're grateful to him for helping Steve get out. He's been studying the pilot's manual, hoping to trigger his memory, but it's not working.
Can I get a look at that secret weapon Steve was telling us about?
Sure. Not much, but it did the job.
Well, it may not seem like much, but we need all the tools we can get to make the ship flyable again.
Flyable? That's funny. I was sitting here imagining that it was flyable.
Well, I think we can get the ship off the ground in spite of what Mark says, if we had some ion propellant.
Betty suggests that Dan teach Joe how to fly the ship. Maybe that will trigger his memory. Dan is happy to do so.
Mark! What are you trying to do? Lead the giants right to us? We could hear you almost all the way to the outpost.
Well, you're right. I wasn't thinking.
Maybe I wasn't either. Where's Joe?
He said he needed to go for a walk and relax.
I think Steve is starting to put some things together.
Which way did he go? Over that way. He couldn't have gone far, though. What's eating you?
Nothing.
Steve is nothing if not consistent. He still sucks at explaining himself. That's not good enough for Betty.
Steve, you're worried. It's about Joe, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe I'm just imagining things.
What things?
This for one. It made enough noise to wake the dead when we were sawing our way out of the cage. Yet it didn't alert the giants.
Well, you're not suggesting that Joe and the Giants are in...
No, I don't know, but it's got me worried.
He says, I have to talk to Joe, learn more about him, and all that.
Steve.
Yeah?
Mind if I join you?
All right.
If he had said no, does he really imagine she wouldn't have followed him anyway?
No, Joe, you're asking for the impossible.
Nothing is impossible. The three of us have already proven that with my size. Now, in a couple of days, I'll be able to handle that ship. But without ion propellant, it won't fly. We've got to get a hold of some.
No, I don't know why his outfit is yellow from a distance and blue close up. None of them is even sure what this stuff is or if it exists in this world.
Our chemical industry has made its first breakthrough with ion. The quantity available is minute. No one is allowed near it. And the guards have been instructed to shoot intruders on sight.
And they're not even sure whatever it is will be compatible with the ship. But Joe is determined. By the way, he told them to call him Joe for the rest of this gig. They thought it was a really funny name. But his name is Loca, which is Spanish for she's crazy. That's not funny at all. Joe says, little people can slip in and get it without being seen. Duh.
With that ion, I'll be just like Steve, a pilot. We can fly to his planet, a dozen others. Learn all their secrets, their technical information. And as soon as we've learned all they have to teach us, we come back, and suddenly we're kings.
My, don't we have delusions of grandeur. Dude, first you have to figure out how they got here, if it's possible to get back, and once you do, if it's possible to come home yet again. You don't know any of that, and you've neglected to ask if they know. Steve and Betty arrive just as the giants are leaving.
Those are the same two that were looking for Joe.
The same two that caught Joe and me.
Instead of explaining himself, he suddenly remembered something important. By now, I have a feeling Steve is thinking,
Isn't that convenient?
One time they took me to a chemical plant to show me off to their head chemist, I guess he was. Anyway, he showed them this propellant material. I don't know if it was called ion or not, but I heard enough to know that it's very, very precious to them.
really convenient. What he describes sure sounds like what they need if they have some idea where it is. Meanwhile, Dan has finished teaching him to fly and has pinned wings on him.
You're, not very presentable for a man who just had his wings pinned to his shirt, are you? Button that shirt collar, mister.
I must be putting on weight.
He's an inch or so taller, too, which means he needs to dash outside and gobble a pill or two.
What do you got there, Joe?
It's my vitamin pills.
That's the best you could come up with. It's digitalis. When I started having chest pains, I suddenly remembered I have them. I found them in my pocket and suddenly remembered I have dippy-doodleitis and have to take these 3 times a day. Pick a medical condition. Now Steve is more suspicious than ever.
You remembered about your vitamin pills?
Yes, I did.
Yet you can't remember who you are, or where you came from, or anything else. Except what you learned here.
I don't understand you.
Well, I'm filling the gaps, Joe. Between the vitamin pills and everything else you haven't told us. Come on, waiting. Why didn't the Giants hear us when we were sawing away out of that cage?
Joe says, fine, I'm working with the Giants.
I'm a secret agent. And that is what you want to hear, isn't it? That I've been up to no good ever since I came here? Of course, that includes getting both of us out of that cage. I don't want to claim any credit for that. But all those weasel words of yours, Captain, that was just a cover for what you really think, huh? I'm not wanted here. Isn't that it?
He throws a proper fit, says, I'm leaving, and storms off.
Would never have occurred to you, would it? That taking vitamin pills is the first thing that's come back to me out of the past.
No, it wouldn't. Usually the first things to come back are a tad more important than that. If taking vitamin pills is that big a deal for you, you need more than vitamins.
I foresee trouble.
The captain suspects we're going to have to work fast. Now, have you located that propellant?
It's in the D building of the chemical plant, under constant guard. But listen, Joe.
It's a death penalty offense to enter the place.
You just leave that to me. I'll report later. With any luck, we...
And now Betty is in the box and she doesn't have the saw with her. The others have been searching for her.
Well, don't worry. I'm not going to stay. I just thought you had a right to know that I remembered where they keep that ion propellant. I hope it's what you need. So, whenever you're ready, I'll show you where it is.
Was Betty with you?
No, why? What happened?
They have to assume those 2 giants caught her. There's nothing to do but go try to rescue her.
Come on, let's get ready. Let's get the grapples and the hatchets.
I'm coming with you. No obligation. I just hope I can help.
Steve has more than a hunch that you've helped way too much already. On the way, Joe peels off and calls in. He says they don't have time for this. They need to get after the propellant. Make sure they can't get inside.
Let's go. Hold it.
He wanders around a bit, then takes up position in front of the door. There's no way to get to the vent without him seeing them, so they'll have to come back for her after they get the propellant. Once they have it, they can light the canister and rocket up to where she is. Maybe not. The building with the propellant is impossible to get into, if you're a full-size giant. If you're little people, you can usually find a convenient drain pipe.
That's it. That's where they keep it.
Let's get up on top.
A little heavy lifting and dodging a guard on rounds, and they're in.
Careful. This is what we hope it is. It could blow us all sky high.
There is one catch to this stuff. Dropping it goes kaboom. Really big kaboom.
Let me have it.
thieving little rat. You'll die for this.
I wonder what they did with that hand after the show ended. If it's still around, I want to make an offer on it. Imagine that on your porch, and instead of a doorbell, there's a sign that says, "Pull my finger."
You've got to let me go, please. I can explain it. Please, let me out. Let me out.
He tried to explain that he's a giant, but the guard doesn't care. You're in here, the penalty is death. But Joe has a way to get out of that receptacle, let his pills wear off, and grow his way out. He just has to make sure he climbs out before he gets too big and gets stuck. That could be painful.
Giant guard caught Joe. We got to get him out. Fitzhugh, take this and be careful.
I shall guard this precious propellant with all my life.
Valerie has been getting snippy with Fitzhugh every time he stays behind with Barry and the women, as though he's either lazy or afraid. But every time he's been following Steve's orders. And it makes sense for him to stay with them because he's not exactly in the best shape for running and climbing and all the rest. But he'll stand his ground and put his back into the job when it's required, and he usually acquits himself well. Again, I think Peter Packer got so used to writing Scoundrel Smith, he can't figure out how to write an anti-hero of a different stripe. So he falls back on what he knows and lets Valerie be his weapon. Thankfully, there's very little of it, and it's not hard to ignore it. They're back inside, but they can't really do anything because the guard is standing there staring at the thing Joe is in. They need to give him something else to do. That's a junction box for the phone. For decades now, landlines trigger the ringer in a phone with a special pulse of a different voltage that goes through the same wires that you talk through. In 1968 and before, the phone company ran a separate wire for the ringer, which is why they can do this.
The building guard, hello. Hello? Hello, who is it?
It keeps him occupied long enough for them to get Joe out and escape. Joe is kind of awestruck.
They're going to have a dragnet out for us. We've got to get that propellant back to the ship. Some of us will come back later and search for Betty as soon as the town quiets down. Then we'll split up, head back to camp the way we came, and keep to the shadows. Okay? And you come with me.
Joe and Fitzhugh end up together. I have a feeling Valerie was hoping to trade places with Fitzhugh. I think she kind of digs Joe.
We shouldn't be back in town. Heard the captain. They'd have a dragnet out for us.
Get back to the ship. I'm gonna go up to the Giant's place and look around for Betty.
My dear chap, I will not happen you. Please, don't do as I say.
It's a really difficult search. He walks in and says, "Put the box down here." That's got to be some kind of hide-and-seek record.
You're free. Come on out.
Invitation to the guillotine?
No, you're free.
What are you doing, Joe?
We're forgetting the whole thing. We never should have started with it.
He's had a major attack of conscience, and with good reason. His pals, not so much. He explains that he was caught, and these people risked their lives for him, so he's done with his plot. And I would like to encourage him by pointing out that it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. These people have no idea what happened, how they got here, or even where here is. What's the plan? Fly up there and wander around until hopefully something happens? I don't think they thought this through.
Hold it.
I still say this is all wrong. We should go back to camp now with the propellant.
Mark's right. There's an army of cops looking for us.
Steve managed to slip out, and he's got the propellant. The big question is, what now?
We thought over what you told us, Joe. We decided you're being misguided. To be grateful to little people is being as little as they are.
A, he is as little as they are. B, what does that even mean?
The riches of the galaxy for the three of us, Joe. Now, you don't expect us to throw it all away. It just doesn't make sense.
It does if you found something better than riches, and Joe has his soul.
Hold it! I'm giving you 10 seconds to let everyone go.
No!
blow us all to pieces with that. You'll have to do as he says.
They don't like it, but they don't have any choice. Joe gets the others out of the net, and everybody starts climbing into the vent.
Nice going, Joe.
Dude, why would he turn on them now? Why would he insist on letting them go only to keep them from going? I don't think you realize what he's doing.
Get going. All of you get out. You'd have never thrown this. What are you waiting for? Get moving!
Now they do. I hope you caught what he said. You never would have dropped this. He knows the kind of man Steve is. He wouldn't deliberately kill these two even if it meant his own life. Joe isn't like that.
Back to the ship. Okay?
Orange Shirt Guy invented the shrinking pills, and presumably the formula died with him, so nobody can try this again. I have a feeling Joe decided that was worth dying for. Unfortunately, when nobody was looking, Chipper ate the pills. They finally found him one day when Barry thought he had a flea in his hair. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please click the thumbs up. It really does help the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, the button looks something like this. So click it and join our little family. There's a bell there that may or may not actually work to give you notifications when we post something, but it can't hurt to click it just in case. You can also join our Patreon for as little as $2 a month and help me keep expanding and improving the channel. The link is in the description, along with links to a lot of other fun stuff I do. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. He throws a proper fit of indignance. He throws a proper fit of indignance. Oh, man! He throws a proper fit of indignance. Oh, what? He throws a proper fit, says, "I'm leaving," and storms off.